Hmm. Hello and welcome back to Excel at Excel. My name is Bruce, and in this episode we're going to be looking at pivot tables. Now I do have to admit right off the bat that pivot tables are not something that I really work with very much personally. I tend to like to do things manually. I guess I'm kind of old school in that regard, but whatever. The point is, a lot of people do get a lot of use out of pivot tables, and a lot of people seem to have trouble with pivot tables, so I thought I would give just a cursory look at them. There are lots of things you can do with them, but I thought I would just give a quick overview of what you can do. Now, as you can see, we are back in our grocery shopping list spreadsheet because I figured this would be an easier thing to take a look at pivot tables with. Now, there are a few things that we need to do to clean up here, so I'm going to go ahead and unhide these columns. And I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all of, actually I'll keep the extended cost, but I'm going to get rid of these items here, and I'm going to get rid of this total down here too. And you'll see why in a minute. We don't technically need it, and well, you'll see why. So now we've just got our item, the type, the quantity, the cost, and the extended cost. We have our different items and our types, the quantities, the prices, all that great stuff. So I'm going to zoom out a bit here. And what we want to do is we want to select our data, and we want to do insert and pivot table. There is a handy function for recommended pivot tables where Excel can sort of figure out what kind of pivot table you might want to create based upon the data that it's looking at, but we're going to do it manually for now. So let's go ahead and create a pivot table. And when this screen pops up, this is basically asking you how to set it up. So first of all, what is the table range? And we've already selected our data, so we're all set there. Then whether you want to put it on a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. And I tend to like to put it on a new worksheet. That way, if anything goes wrong, you can always modify it and not worry about messing with your data. So let's go ahead and put it on a new worksheet. And you're given this as your primary screen. And over to the right, you can see we have some other options with the pivot table format right over here, or fields rather. So we have all of these different items we can choose from. We have all of these different sections down here. And when you first look at this, you're probably thinking, what on earth am I meant to do with this? Well, it's actually pretty self-explanatory if you just look at it a little bit. So these are the different fields, the different columns you had in your data, and these are the different things you can do with them. So you can filter by any of these things, you can make any of these things columns in your report, you can make them rows in your report, or you can make them values. One thing that I note with pivot tables is that your values are always going to be numerical. At least that's what I've seen so far. If I'm wrong, please put that in the comments and show me how I'm wrong about that, because I would certainly love to learn that myself. Again, I don't necessarily use pivot tables a lot myself, but anyway, let's say we wanted to look at items as our rows, and you can see right away we've got apples, bananas, all of our items are popping up. And let's say for the values, we want to put cost. And you'll notice right away it's putting our grand total at the bottom. And you can also do extended cost, I guess, if you really want it in another column. That's not really particularly useful, though, because this is basically saying, you know, how, of the things that cost 50 cents, and it's a little messy here. So we're not going to do that. We're going to get rid of extended cost here. And actually what I'll do is I'll put extended cost in my values. And you can see we get another column that shows not only what is the cost per item, but now what is the extended cost, and that grand total can come back, which is really helpful. So let's throw type in here for our filter, because what we want to do, for example, is say, let's look at all of the fruit that we are buying. Okay, so if we get rid of, let's see, we want to get rid of everything except for the fruit. Now we're only going to display the fruit. So you can already see that you can do quite a lot with this. You can get the total of this. You can even, if I go back and deselect the filter here, and if I make this into currency, that way it looks a little nicer. You can still apply the same filter and get the same information and see how much money you're spending on, say, treats, or how much money you're spending on vegetables, pretty much right away. And you can do things like add layers to this. So if you wanted to put in a row of, I don't know, what would be a good thing to do here? Like type, I guess. This isn't particularly useful either because you're, again, looking at, just the vegetables and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and take type out of here again. But this is the beauty of pivot tables, is that if you don't get the result that you want, you can just keep playing around with it and, and make it produce whatever report you want it to report. More or less. Again, you are limited by the fact that values have to be numerical, but apart from that, it can be pretty handy. You can also throw in, I don't know, quantity in here if you wanted to see things by how many you've purchased. You can really go crazy with this, but I recommend just playing around with all the different things, moving, the different fields into different areas to see what the effect is on all of these different functions, if you will. So again, this is just sort of a cursory look at pivot tables, but you can probably tell as I just keep moving things around how very powerful this can be in getting a report for your data. I particularly like this to keep track of expenses and then to see like where I'm spending my money, if it's on entertainment or dining out or things like that. So that's where this comes in handy, or who's spending the money, if it's myself or my partner and things like that. So it can be pretty handy, and it just kind of depends on what you're doing with it. But that's all for now for pivot tables. If you have any questions or you like what you see, please put a comment in, or be sure to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I sincerely appreciate your tuning in and your support, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, and take care.